we can essentially divide the bones of our body into 206 named different bones. And we find then that not even individual to individual share the same number of bones. They could be congenitally lacking, or individuals may have an extra bone somewhere. These extra ones are typically small. But it's approximately 206 bones of the body. Now, we can divide these bones into two major groups. We have axial and appendicular bones. The axial skeleton are those which form the long axis of your body, the bones of your skull, your vertebrae and rib cage, like your ribs and sternum, all form the axial skeleton. The appendicular skeleton are bones of your upper and lower appendages, or limbs, and their associated girdles. So what this slide is showing is essentially the relationship of axial and appendicular bones. Axial includes your skull, vertebrae, ribs, sternum. So that's all axial. Makes sense because it's right on the axis, or the center of your body. And then the appendicular bones are associated with the appendages, hence the name. And so you find that your upper appendage here is associated with your clavicle and scapula, which form the pectoral girdle. And then the lower appendage here is associated with the pelvic girdle, which is essentially the bones of your pelvis, like your os coxae. So your ilium, your ischium, and your pubis. Now, other ways we can classify bones are also based on their size and shape. So there's four major shapes that bones can come in. We have long bones, short bones, flat bones, and irregular bones. Long bones are longer than they are wide, hence the name. In fact, a lot of the bones of your limbs are considered long bones, like your humerus and your ulna, your radius, even your metacarpals and phalanges are all considered long bones. Short bones are basically shorter. They're kind of cube-shaped. You find these in wrist and ankle bones. And sesamoid bones are also examples of short bones. So your metacarpals, your carpal bones, which form your wrist, or your tarsal bones, which form your ankle, these are essentially considered short bones. Sesamoid means sesame seed shaped. So sesamoid bones are those which form in tendons. These are also examples of short bones. An example of a sesamoid bone, or a bone that forms within a tendon, is a patella. And the patella is essentially your kneecap, and this is considered a short bone. Now, flat bones are thin and flat, slightly curved. An example of a flat bone could be things like your sternum, scapula, ribs, and most of your skull bones, or bones of your cranium, are considered flat bones. And irregular bones have more complicated shapes. An example of a regular bone could be something like your vertebrae or your hip bones. So this slide just summarizes the different types of bones. You can see a long bone here. Remember, it's long, and it's characterized by the fact that it's longer than it is wide. So you find that there's rounded ends called epiphyses and essentially elongated diaphysis. We have a flattened region here called a flat bone. An example, this is your sternum, your ribs, and your cranial bones are all considered flat bones. Short bones include your tarsal bones, like your ankle, or your carpal bones of your wrist. And irregular bones just kind of have an irregular shape to them. So you find that the vertebrae along your spine and even your hip bones are examples of irregular bones. Now, it turns out that long bones start out as hyaline cartilage, and flat bones typically start out as little sheets of fibrous tissue. And we'll differentiate between the different types of formation of these bones in future video. But essentially, what you want to know then is that not all of your bones are formed the same way. They actually have different types of developmental aspects.